That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
All right, guys, we are about to pass 1,500 subscribers. Thank y'all so much for the support so far. I mean, we have a ridiculous like to view ratio, and because y'all have been smashing that like button on so many of our videos, we've been getting recommended to new listeners, and I really appreciate everyone making sure that that happens. And before we get into this video, I just want to put a disclaimer out. We just started the fantasy basketball season. I mean, there is so much left to go that while, yes, these players are falling based on where they were going in fantasy drafts, this is not a video saying you should go out there and panic on these players. This is just a temperature check in how these players have been performing so far, what players are falling, what players are rising. It's going to be very hard to come to concrete answers and concrete solutions until we see some more games played, because we know the NBA season is a lot better than the NFL season, and that we actually get a much larger sample to work with. That way we actually kind of have an understanding of what was randomness at the beginning and what was just the player's ability. But yeah, please guys, do not panic. Anyway, let's get into this video and let's talk about players that have fallen based on their week 1 performance. And let's start it off with Damian Lillard. Okay, so with Damian Lillard, obviously he was going at the very beginning of fantasy drafts. Right now, only averaging 24 points a game, 44% from field, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, half a steal and half a block. And I mean, this is not why you were drafting Damian Lillard. The reason that we were drafting Damian Lillard was for elite usage in his offense. We knew that he was going to be having one of the higher usage rates in the NBA. That's going to come along with a ton of points, as we've seen with Dame before. That's going to come along with a ton of three-pointers, because we know that is one of the best things that Damian Lillard is at. That is one of the reasons you take him in the very beginning of your draft. But it's also going to come with assist. Y'all know I am very annoying in talking about assist. But they are so hard to find off the waiver wire, and they are so hard to go out there and acquire in our leagues, that it is very important. And that's why I did not mind people drafting Damian Lillard at the very beginning of their fantasy drafts this season, because that usage rate combined with his ability was going to guarantee you elite production at points, threes, and assists. And we know that he is not going to kill you in terms of his efficiency from the free throw line and from the field. And then he's already averaging half a steal and half a block a game. I'm completely fine with those numbers if he is able to go out there and bump up the points, bump up the assist, which he should be able to do. Like I said, guys, we are so early on in the season. If there's a player that I'm going to be buying on this list, it's probably going to be Damian Lillard. I mean, y'all know that my number 1 draft day target was Jokic. I mean, I loved Jokic in the first round because he was giving us those elite assist numbers at the big man position. But say you could go and you could trade a Jokic for Damian Lillard plus a significant second piece. At this point, that may be something that I am looking to do, because I think Damian Lillard should be a player that can easily overcome his slow start. Okay, so now let's go to a player that I was heavily avoiding in fantasy drafts this past season, and this is going to be LaMarcus Aldridge. Okay, so with LaMarcus, I mean, he is averaging 12 points a game. He's averaging 42% from the field, 18% from three-pointers, and then 4.5 rebounds and 2 assists. I mean, this is horrendous. For a player that you drafted to be in your starting lineup, I mean, he has given you nothing close to that production, and you can't really point to the fact that he hasn't been getting the minutes, because no, I mean, he's been averaging close to 30 minutes per game. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge has been a player that has not been close to what he was at his career peak for the past 3 seasons now. I know this is coming from a Spurs fan, but I mean, if I go to a Spurs game, the last player I'm going to go there to watch is LaMarcus Aldridge. He just does not have the talent anymore. There's no reason for him to be going as high as he was in fantasy drafts this past season. It looks like a mistake, and I don't know if he is going to be able to turn it around. Okay, so now our next player we're going to talk about is someone that I was avoiding in fantasy drafts as well, and this is Deandre Ayton. Okay, so with Deandre Ayton, obviously a super young player that's going to continue to develop as the season goes on. But for now, he's averaging about 11.5 points a game. He is averaging 52% from the field. He's only had 1 3 on the entire season. We knew that wasn't something that we were going to be expecting a ton of production in. And then he only has 11 rebounds a game, an assist and a half, and 0.2 steals. I mean, here, the reason you were drafting Deandre Ayton so early on in fantasy drafts were for the blocks, were for the rebounds, as well as the efficiency from the field and scoring. I mean, with this Suns rotation, we thought that Deandre Ayton was going to have such a heavy utilized role that he was going to be an impact player for us in our starting lineups. But I mean, right now, these numbers are entirely replaceable. I mean, I know 11 rebounds sounds great, but when you're not providing any other thing at any other category, I mean, really, 11 rebounds is just kind of empty noise. It's just something that people are chasing. Now, here with Deandre Ayton, I think that he should bounce back from this slow start. He should be able to turn things around. I'm not quite as confident as I am with a Damian Lillard, so I don't want to go out there running to buy him because, you know, when you buy a Deandre Ayton, even if he does come back and bounces back, I mean, at the very minimum, you're still going to be punting a few categories. So Deandre Ayton, just someone that I think we're going to stay away from at the moment. Okay, so now our next player is going to be someone that was severely overdrafted in my opinion, and this is D'Angelo Russell. Okay, so with D'Angelo Russell, I mean, he's averaging 17 points a game, 42% from the field, 3.5 3-pointers a game, 4 assists, and a steal. Okay, so with D'Angelo Russell, the reason that I was avoiding him in fantasy drafts is because he is a scoring first guard. Those are my least favorite players in fantasy basketball because I think just fantasy basketball players have not realized how overrated the points category is, where what you want to be chasing is you want to be chasing everything else because it's coming at a value. So while yes, D'Angelo Russell should be able to give you decent numbers in both points and threes, I don't necessarily know if the assists are going to be there. And we know the assists are the hardest things to come by. So with D'Angelo Russell, I mean, new team yet again. I think at this point, people just kind of have to understand. I mean, yeah, he looks badass on the court with all his tattoos. I mean, he looks badass. But he's not that great of a player. I mean, he's not what y'all have in your minds. So D'Angelo Russell, I mean, a player trending downwards. And honestly, I think that that's going to continue that way. Okay, so now our next player is talking about scoring first players is going to be Devin Booker. Okay, so with Devin Booker, he was going at the very beginning of fantasy drafts this past season. And when you were drafting him, you were expecting 27 points per game at the very minimum. Right now, he hasn't even cracked 20 points per game. He's shooting 45% from the field. He is averaging 2.5 threes a game, but what is demoralizing is only 4 rebounds, 3.5 assists. He has been saving you, though, in the steals category where he is averaging almost 2 steals a game. So with Devin Booker, I mean, this is why it's so risky drafting those score first players, because if they are not putting up elite numbers in the point category, I mean, really, what are you drafting? You're going to be taking a hit at rebounds. You're going to be taking a hit at assist. This is why Devin Booker was in a void for me early on in fantasy drafts. So yeah, I mean, Devin Booker, he's going to turn things around. I mean, he is going to be the player that people want him to be in terms of putting points up as well as getting those 3-pointers. But I just don't know if that makes him an elite fantasy asset. Okay, so now let's go over to New Orleans and let's talk about Lonzo Ball. Okay, so Lonzo Ball, in my opinion, looked like he had put things together in 2019, but I don't know what's going on right now. I mean, 11 points per game, 37% from the field, only 2 threes a game, and he's putting up a ridiculous amount of shots. And then 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals a game. So yeah, I mean, he's saving you with the steals, but none of these numbers outside of that are too inspiring. And with Lonzo Ball, I think that really the most bad piece of news for him is going to be the slower paced offense. We know the coaching change in New Orleans dictates that this offense is nothing close to what it was a year ago, where they were aggressively pushing the ball down the court. Here, I think that with Lonzo Ball, I mean, yes, he can turn things around in terms of getting those assist numbers up, getting his efficiency up slightly, which will raise his points. But the possessions for the Pelicans should be down compared to where they were a year ago. So Lonzo Ball, another player that looked like he was just overvalued in fantasy drafts. And now, let's go to his teammate, Steven Adams. Now, Steven Adams has looked fantastic if you're watching the games and what he's been able to do for the New Orleans Pelicans. But right now, 8 points. I mean, he has incredible efficiency from the field, shooting 76% from the field. He has no three-pointers, not something we were expecting from him. He has 8.5 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal and a half, and almost a block and a half a game. So yeah, I mean, he is a fantastic player for the New Orleans Pelicans. I mean, I think that if you just watch those games, you see how much Steven Adams does that does not pop up on the box score. But here, we're not trying to build an NBA team. We're trying to build a fantasy team, and how we do that is we get stats in those box scores. Okay, so now our last player that we're going to talk about, another very exciting player that in my opinion was going a little too high in fantasy drafts. This is Donovan Mitchell. I mean, Donovan Mitchell's out here averaging 20 points a game, 32% from the field, 3 3-pointers a game, 2 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal and a half. I mean, with Donovan Mitchell, I don't necessarily know what everybody was expecting. I don't necessarily know what everybody was looking for. I mean, yes, he was able to completely dominate in the bubble, but outside of that, I really don't know what y'all were wanting. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, if y'all did, go down there, drop that like, leave that comment, subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps us out. And yeah, that's it. I will see y'all with the video tomorrow.